The phrase that always got me was safety's number one. I never believed in that, and I argued with a number of professors about that. If safety's number one, that means you're putting everything else to the side. And from a business standpoint, you can't do that, you know?
Welcome to the Canary Report, the podcast where risk leaders, safety professionals, and operational executives come for real-world stories and smarter strategies to keep people safe. I'm your host, Michael Zhao. In each episode, I sit down with exceptional leaders who are transforming how risk and safety are managed. Whether you're a leader of a nationwide EH&S program in a high-risk industry, or you champion workplace safety across 200 retail locations, this podcast is for you. Let's get into it.
Welcome to the Canary Report, the podcast where risk leaders, safety professionals, and operating executives come for real-world stories and smarter strategies to keep people safe. I am your host, Michael Zhao, the founder and CEO of Yellowbird. Today, joining me from Pennsylvania is Dylan Laser. He is the safety director for Kinsley Construction, a full-service construction company with over 2,500 employees, not even to mention their subcontractors, has over $1 billion in annual revenue, has a lot of moving parts, and has a wonderful success story as a gentleman who started from the early ranks post-college as an intern to then rising to a position of leadership. And I thank you so much, and I'm excited to have you.
So am I. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So we like to start off by talking about the most important thing, which we are in a human business as a safety professional, but frankly, as an executive, as a leader, nothing happens without human beings and caring for humans. And one of the callings of being in this industry is that. So tell me about you, your journey, your family, your life, perhaps some of the activities you do outside of being a safety professional.
Sure, yeah. Currently, I am raising twins. They just turned 8 months old on Friday. I do have a 5-year-old son, so they're not our first, but yeah, it's first set of twins in the family on both sides, which is pretty awesome. So that's taken up a majority of my time outside of work, but that is not a complaint at all. Um, Growing up, I heard people say, becoming a parent was a phenomenal stage in their life. And it was always like, well, I don't know. I feel pretty bad for my parents. So I don't know if it's that wonderful. But I will say it was a very changing moment in my life when we had our first son, and then to have twins was just an incredible moment. And still every day they're growing and developing, and it's phenomenal. Outside of that, I very much enjoy just being outside, hunting, fishing, the typical, I feel like, construction guy conversation, hunting and fishing, but it is something I very much enjoy. Growing up, I spent as much time as possible outside, probably more so from parents, saying, okay, you guys need to be outside.
How many of you were there?
Yeah, I was one of 4 boys in the family. So my parents had their hands full, and it was a unique thing growing up with just brothers. And one of the twins that I now have is a daughter. So that's been different for me. I'd like to say it softened me up a little bit in a good way. And but yeah, growing up with brothers, I mean, we were always into something, always. And I'd tell this story, and I probably shouldn't as a safety professional these days, but for my 13th birthday, my parents bought me a 3-wheeler. It was a Honda 250X, which was, notorious for not being the safest.
Yeah, those were the flippers.
It created a lot of stories for us. And, growing up, my older brother and I were glued to the hip constantly. We did and got into everything together. Still very close to this day, which is, to me, extremely important. Family is important for many things. But yeah, there wasn't too much that I got into that he wasn't right there with me on. And I think it helped shape a lot of who I was and who I am today. And so yeah, I still spend a lot of time with family. as connected to my brothers as possibly can be. Actually was just hunting this past weekend down in Delaware with my older brother, and it was a great time. Just
Now, where are they? Where are your siblings, your brothers now? Are they all still in the general area?
yep, same area. We didn't all branch out too far. My older brother, he did serve in the United States Marine Corps. So that was kind of strange when he left for boot camp, graduated high school, left for boot camp right away. And that was, the longest time we spent apart and the furthest distance we spent apart ever. Um, but yeah, I think learning from him when he came home, the experiences he had and things that he went through, it helped give me a different outlook on life. And I took a lot of that and plugged it into what I've done with safety over the years, which I think is a different approach to some people. It's not as though I served, but I took a lot of the stories that he had and interactions he had in his time, and took those and tried to make something of it for what I'm doing these days. So yeah, it's great. I do brag a little bit about the relationship with my older brother because when he got out of the Marine Corps, wasn't 100% sure what he wanted to do. Um, he ended up going to college, same college I went to, Millersville in Lancaster, PA, for safety. So he followed in my footsteps for the first time in our lives. And so I was graduating when he started there, technically as a freshman, and then he went through the program as well. So that was pretty neat. It was pretty cool to go through and it be flipped where everybody's like, "Oh, you're Dylan's brother," versus me getting, "Oh, you're Devin's brother." And so yeah, that was kind of cool and unique and fun for me.
That's fantastic. Well, let me tell you, as a girl dad, my son's 21 and my daughter is 16. And so I am on the other side of some of the things you're about to go through. And um, she hasn't even started to soften you yet. When you will have a little 3, 4 year old girl that's painting your nails and doing your hair, and you'll think to yourself, how did this happen and why am I so happy? Because, your pride and your ego and your vanity goes out the door for a simple smile from your little girl. There is a special, there's a special thing there for dads and daughters. And, they always say that how you treat your daughter and is how she expects to be treated by a man. And I think that is a beautiful thing. And especially if you're a good father like you. So I think I'm excited to, over the years, hear about your journey. Because I know you know how to be a boy dad. Well, you had four of you guys, and definitely the rough and tumble is needed and fun and exciting. But the girl dad is a special situation.
It's already been a little eye-opening for me. My wife is one to not be, into colors, very neutral colors throughout our home. But now that there's daughters and now that Millie's here, it's a lot more pink around my life and daily life than I've ever expected. But it's a good thing. It's very, very fun.
It is. It's great. And you know what? I will just say that you'll have these moments until they're about 15, and then you'll want to move out until they're about 19 because and that is that's just the part. My daughter's 16 and I mean, we just had a daddy daughter date last weekend. We haven't done it in a couple of years, and we went to a Fleming's Steakhouse and we had a lovely meal and it was great and we had a blast. But I'll tell you, she didn't want anything to do with me 6 months ago. And like, there are just these moments that kids go through, boys and girls, that are painful for a parent to have to remember that this is part of the journey. so, so your wife does, she's got her hands full. She's got 3 kids in the house, and how long have you two been together?
Yeah, so we actually met when we were in college. We met at Millersville. So it's been 14 years that we've been together, married since 2018. And yeah, 3 kids now. She spent 10 years teaching in the school district of Lancaster City. She taught life skills. She stays home now, and I love it. I do. It's really great to see. And our oldest son just started preschool, So, he's doing that 4 days a week and he loves that. He loves going to school. I couldn't be happier. It's refreshing because I was not the kid that loved to go to school. So it's nice to have children that are like, oh, I get to go to school today. And it's, yeah,
No,
he's actually,
did your wife enjoy school? Was she somebody who found that to be fulfilling? And there you go. So mine too. In relative terms, compared to me for sure, because I did not like school. I liked being outside and doing the things that boys do, like flipping over three-wheelers, which I think you can experience full circle on our conversation. So tell me about the journey of your career. So you've been at Kinsey for 10 years, is that correct?
it's going on 12. Yeah, 12 years.
Fantastic. So tell us about that, both what the company does and where you do it and all that good stuff, and then about your part in it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Kinsley is stationed, its main hub is in York, Pennsylvania. And they started, Bob Kinsley started the company in York, Pennsylvania 60 some years ago with a backhoe and a dump truck. Started and built it into this phenomenal company to work for and be a part of. Now we're in every state almost on the East Coast, from New York down through Virginia. And, we're exploring the industry and states all the way down through Florida. And that's our goal. And yeah, it's just amazing to see. We pride ourselves on being pretty much a full service company, and whether that's Kinsley Construction or its affiliate companies, we like to be able to state and say that we can do a project from start to finish, and that has been something amazing to be a part of and see and grow with. And to get here, it was kind of, I find it funny. I was graduating high school, not really sure what I wanted to do. My mom was a teacher, my dad a police officer. Thought, man, police officer might be interesting. Um, it was a conversation with my father. Hey, I think there's probably more that you can do. Not that there's anything wrong with being a police officer, but maybe look at something more. Okay. So ended up going to college in Westminster, Maryland. It's McDaniel College, small private school, to be a history teacher. Thought, let's follow in mom's footsteps. I love history. Grew up watching the History Channel when we were inside, and I was like, that's something that very interests me. I made it through about a semester, and I thought this probably isn't going to be for me. I love the
Yeah.
fact of teaching people and helping people learn and understand things, but um, following a tight curriculum and that on everything that kind of went into it, just didn't really strike me as what I wanted to be able to present information to people and help people learn and grow through things. So kind of decided at that point, teacher's not for me. So what am I going to do? And ended up getting a summer job in blasting in the mining industry. And that was incredible. I still account a lot of my time there to who I am today and the experiences that I had there, good, bad, all in between, just everything. And started out with the company as just a nighttime laborer, loading trucks with explosives. Um, Spent as much time as I could learning about every different product, what's used for what, how it's functioning, what do we need this for, inventories, all the uh, OSHA regulations that go into it, the MSHA regulations for mining, ATF, because everything's
Yeah,
regulated through them.
explosives.
Yep.
Sure.
So that was, very interesting to me. And started as the night shift, and then I said, night shift isn't bad, but I want to see what this is actually about, and started
Sure.
doing um, taking day shifts and going out with the crews to load shots, learn from the blasters, and see what the other side was like. And it was incredible. I think a lot of people look at blasting as like, you dig a hole in the ground, you put some explosives in it, you set it off. But it's
I've seen Looney Tunes. I know exactly how it works.
exactly right, and that's where my mind was at the
You know,
time. But
it's Acme makes a very good big red, with a fuse, and you just drop it in the hole and you run away.
yep, you either light it or you just push the plunger, and boom, there
Oh,
you go.
exactly.
Um, yeah, and it just turned out to be so much more methodical and
Oh, yeah.
mathematical, and you have to understand the seams of rock and where everything is and what's going to happen when we do set this off. Where's it going to go? And so to learn all of that, I spent as much time learning from the blasters as I could, and during all of that, things kind of caught my attention. Loading trucks at night, it was like, okay, we are loading trucks from a semi trailer, 50-foot, 52-foot long trailer in the dark, dragging them down, stepping across this gap to load them into another truck. Products are usually either wet or sweat from humidity and temperatures, makes the decking wet, slip and fall out between the trucks. So what can we do to bridge that? And so stuff like that started to kind of click with me. And it's, at one point I went out myself to Cabela's because that wasn't far from where I worked. They bought everybody headlamps. I'm like, you know what? We're going to use these because I don't want one of you guys falling down between the truck or myself. And, at the time, my thought process was you fall and get hurt. It gives me more
I got to
work.
do more work.
Right.
Exactly.
So it was it was a funny development, I think,
Yep.
in my thought process with it, but that's where I was at the time. So, I did
Sure.
all that and did that for 4 summers as I ended up going then to Millersville. Conversation I had with one of the owners of the blasting company was like, safety is one of these things that everybody needs. It's up and coming, and it's going to continue to grow. It's not as though it's going to go away. Maybe something to look at. So, Millersville, local to home. So gave it a check, and they had a phenomenal program for safety from what I saw. And I went to like a visitation day, come out and check out the program. Sat through a bit of an OSHA 101 course. This is something I could see myself in. And so yeah, that was it's kind of no turning back then at that point. And I went in and I turned into loving school. Not necessarily the bookwork side of it, but being able to learn what safety meant, not just, hey, you're not wearing your safety glasses or, hey, put your hard hat on. It was just much more involved. And so to graduate from Millersville from the program, you have to do an internship. So I started looking around and originally I thought, I'm going to go back and just do the blasting thing. I'm familiar with it. Let's just stay with that. But then I was like, I spent all this time destroying stuff. Might be pretty neat to see building stuff. So started reaching out to some construction companies, and I don't know if I could tell you how it happened, but Kinsley, replied and said, "Hey, yeah, we're looking to take an intern this summer. Come interview." And it was scary for me at that time because I'd never had a real interview ever, and I walked in not sure what to expect. And I was sitting with the risk manager at the time and the safety director at the time, and they're asking me a lot of these similar questions. And I'm like, I worked at a wing shop in college, or I'm sorry, in high school. I know how to cook a wing, but I also blew stuff up. So, I don't know. um, and then at the time, they were like, well, we have our own quarry. Kinsley Construction owns a quarry in West York. And the puzzle then kind of started going together. And I said, you know what? I've spent time at that quarry blowing up rock for you guys. So, it all kind of came together and they gave me an opportunity to do an internship. And I consider it to be a unique internship. I had things I had to do for school as part of my internship project, but I spent most of my internship not necessarily doing safety, but just learning the industry. I'd go out every day and I'd pick a different crew and I would just work with the crew. And, my thought process was if I don't understand what they're doing, I'm never going to get them to buy into safety, and I'm never going to truly know what safety means for that kind of work or specific task. So yeah, it was roughly 3-month internship, and I learned a lot about construction, and it was amazing. And I did my my internship presentation and talked about my time and what I did. And I don't know, I got some odd looks from my professors when I said, I didn't really do safety this summer, but I did learn a lot about safety, and I learned a lot about
Yes,
how people perceive it. And, the common theme that I got from a lot of not just Kinsley employees, but some contractors working with us is,
exactly.
there's this mentality that it's safety police. You're
Right.
out there to get us because we're wrong. And
Yeah,
that stuck with me. And I
that's
said in my
common.
final presentation that I want to change that, not just Kinsley's mindset and philosophy with it, but just try to do what I can for the industry and change it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, the world, and I think honestly, there's a lot of people who have that opinion because it is an easy way of defining, the whole world right now, unfortunately, from all of our divisiveness and different viewpoints, everything else, try to put people in boxes. And if you are a safety director, well, safety cop is an easy box to put you in. And it's like, have you ever actually been treated like you're talking to a cop with us? It's like, well, no. I'm like, then why do you think that? Like, why you're defaulting, you're spreading that rumor, you're spreading that mentality. And the reality is if you're in this industry, you're not in it because you enjoy coming down on people. Like nobody enjoys coming
right.
down on people. I don't, well, I shouldn't say that, but
If you do, you're probably not
rare.
in the right
Yeah. Yeah.
spot.
And honestly, you're probably in a different role in construction because we all know the people in construction that have much joy in coming down on people, and it's usually not the safety people. Um, so, and I can't think of an industry to cut your teeth in that is more dangerous and more risky and has more zero tolerance for error than blasting. It is not about OSHA and it is not about all the regulations. People know, and that's the best part. There's no gray area. It's a friggin' dangerous job, and everybody better have a head on a swivel and be smart. And did you find that people had more respect for safety culture in that environment because they knew how dangerous it was?
It was interesting. I think a lot of people respected what it meant to be safe, not necessarily the concept of a safety individual. I'll share a story. My very first day on my very first shop, I picked a blaster that I knew had been in the trade for a very long time, seasoned, knowledgeable beyond belief. And I thought, this is the guy I want to learn from. So I'm going to his shop. And I showed up and, I was pretty much just moving stemming, which is just stone around to finish off the shots. And working with the dewatering truck to pump water out of the holes. And he goes, okay, it's time to tie in. You want to try it? I said, yeah, tell me what I need to know. And he said, you take this piece and you put it in this piece. He said, but don't push too hard. Otherwise, you're going to get my boots red and I'm not going to be happy. And that was my learning experience. And so I'm standing there holding explosives in my hands. And that's what's told to me.
Was that a true statement? Like, in all
True.
honesty, was
Uh,
that?
100%. That's exactly how it's said to me. And I can still picture
No,
it
no,
to this
no.
day.
But is that actually what could have happened if you pushed it too hard?
It would take a
Or
lot.
was he? Or
It's
was he was effing with you?
He
But
was being dramatic, but trying to prove a point. And that stuck with me where it was kind
yeah,
of, yes, did he embellish the truth?
of course. But
Absolutely.
yeah,
But did he get his point across? I knew in that moment I had to respect what was in my hands and take caution and do it the correct way. Otherwise, something possibly could happen. And I didn't want that. So, yeah, in that moment, it was kind of like, oh, okay, this guy is hard. And that's not what I wanted to hear my very first day out here. I'm learning this, but it stuck with me. And I may have learned how to develop and present that message differently to people in the future, but it's the same message, right? So, and that's where I was saying earlier about how that job kind of sculpted who I am and how to present messages to individuals. So yeah, it wouldn't happen that easily.
at the end of the day, like, you went originally to school to become a history teacher, and and it's funny because I was listening to what you were saying there, and there's there's curriculum and there's all these things you have to cover and the tests you have to do and everything else, but the application of a history teacher is for the sake of knowledge for the sake of knowledge. In our world, you're actually doing exactly the same thing, but the curriculum is for the sake of keeping people safe and doing things so that they get home every day and that they know the implications. And so you're still a teacher. You're just doing it in a different way.
And that's, in my career, then that led to me ending up teaching a lot of our safety classes. I went and got my credentials to teach OSHA, MSHA. I was able to get my Part 48 underground instructor card, which is difficult, but I was able to do it because of my time in blasting. So, OSHA classes, MSHA classes, our fall protection. I was doing it all. And so it became a very amazing blend of what I originally wanted to do and then what I got into and tying it all together. And so, yeah, when I started with Kinsley as an intern, there was 6 safety professionals. And over time, then as the company grew, we grew the department. And so at our peak, we got up to 34 safety professionals and three independent trainers. So our own training department, and that's all they do. And that was just, I can't even put it into words how great it was to be a part of that and to see it grow over time and be a part of the company as a whole and watch as the different business units grew and what their projected goals were and their strategic plans. And okay, how do I tie my strategic plan into that? And what do I need to do to make sure that I'm able to service the growth of the company and the company as time goes on? And I felt so fortunate because ownership, the Kinsley family,
Yep.
they essentially gave me the capability and just said, "Hey, we're gonna trust that what you need to do is what you're gonna do, and you have our support, and you have our
That's
backing."
fantastic.
And I, it just I just
That's
feel so
fantastic.
fortunate, yes, to be even a part of that. And even today, time change, leadership change, personnel change, the
Sure.
family's still heavily involved. Now, third generations get involved, and it's just there's not a day where I'm coming to work and it's like I do not love being here, and
That's
it's just
that is such a blessing. I will
yes.
tell you, my son is studying architecture. He's a junior in college, and he comes to the house on the weekends occasionally and shows us his projects. And I actually have to tell him, dude, you need to go out, go on a date, go with your friends, go do something. But he's like, Dad, I'm just having such a good time. Like he is all in. And the passion for that, and I'm watching it, and I'm like, he's gonna have a wonderful career because he just loves what he does. And I said, and I told him, I said, the only risks that you have in not having a wonderful career, remember this because you love the architecture. The architecture is not the company. The architecture is the skill, it's the trade, it's the thing. So if you end up not liking it, it's more likely than not the skill. It has to do with where you're applying the skill. So to be at a place like that you love the people and that you know that they care is really special. So, if the Kinsley family ever listens to this, I really do hope that they appreciate how good they've done for their folks. So, give me an understanding of you got around 30 folks or so. You got a few trainers. How do you are you over all of the divisions and what divisions do you all have? And, how do you do specialty and consistency of turnover and training? 3 trainers is obviously not that many. And so, and it's self-serving, by the way, because Yellowbird does do surveys and trainings and staffing. I recognize that. I'll throw it out there as a point, but really, I do want to know, tell us about the divisions and what you're responsible for, and then how you currently do your programs.
So yeah, we have 4 main divisions within the company: our building division, materials division, civil division, which is site preparation work, earthwork, dirt, utilities, which is all part of that. And then we have industrial division, which they specialize in more of the quarry type work, food industry, conveyor systems, anything industrialized is their focus. So it is a broad spectrum, and that has been a challenge for me in this role and coming into it, because obviously one of the first things you do coming in anywhere is you get handed the safety handbook and you go through it and you read it, and it's like, well, yeah, I'm reading this whole thing. That's my job. And what I picked up on pretty quickly is the book was generic in its policies.
Yeah. It was given to them by their payroll, by their payroll company probably. And they're like, nobody ever actually read it.
And it was one of those things where myself and some of the other professionals and our risk manager was like, this doesn't work. We have unspoken policies that we implement for certain divisions and certain groups, and then there's this, and then there's this, and we want a blanket statement for this. And it became one of those where it's like, this might not be what's working. This might be where we have this cultural disconnect with safety and the understanding of its entire intention. So 12 years of my time here, besides training and just providing safety, has been, okay, how do we adapt and change these policies across the board, but keep it also not too specific where we're missing out on one of these groups. If you look at our civil division, a lot of their work is on jobs that are governed by OSHA. But you look at our industrial group, a lot of their jobs are governed by NSHA. Similar standards, but MSHA's got some that are very much different than OSHA.
And can go into EPA. Like they can go into some of the other, agencies that oversee, this type of thing.
So many pieces to it. So it's like, okay, how do we start to essentially reset? Can we take this? We have it, but let's make it better. And what's that look like? So, that's been a challenge, but it's been a fun challenge. And the way that we've attempted to do that is not by sitting in an office and typing up a policy, putting it in front of leadership, and they say, yeah, that's what we want. It's been a process of taking one specific policy or one specific section and building it from the ground up with the people that are involved with it day to day. Okay, we understand and recognize this is what OSHA tells us a policy is or regulation is for this type of work. But what makes sense for you guys? How do we protect ourselves and go above what OSHA is asking for, but make it make sense? And so a lot of it's been, let's develop this with the people in the field. They're the ones that are going to have to put up with it every day. So what's that look like? And so, it's been a lot of fun. It's challenging, but it's been a lot of fun. And I've worked to have the safety professionals heavily involved with it. I didn't want to be the one as the quote unquote director sitting there and saying, this is what it has to be. My opinion might be extremely different than the safety professionals that are in it every day. So, having them involved in writing these and developing these, I feel has been a massive part of what's helped the culture and buy-in from truly safety professionals.
It's funny you should say that, because one of the projects that we recently worked on, and I'm trying to productize this, we're not quite there yet as a company, but I think we can do it, but it's just not a product yet. But one of the things that we have is organizations like yours with varying risk needs based on environment, based on when and who and how, is doing field assessments and basically walking the site just to point out the good, which I think is a vitally important thing that everybody in this industry, frankly, everybody in this world should be doing. Highlighting the good. You're doing 98% of the things at or above necessary standards. But then on just having an observation of what they're seeing. I am the worst personally. I know that. I am in my own house. I walk by things constantly and say, oh, I got to fix that. And then it'll be 4 months later. I'm like, yep, still broken.
Yeah.
But yep. I mean, but if I had somebody else in there that walked through and they're like, yeah, and they wrote it down, I'd be like, yeah, I got to get on that. Like,
yes.
I've now been called out by somebody else's eyeballs. And, there is something to having a third party doing this kind of stuff. And what we found on the training programs, especially on surveys and assessments, is self-graded tests are really dangerous because you have to folks that are being asked to walk your own site and make sure you're doing the things, make sure that are we actually getting the right information? Are we, are we being honest with ourselves? And so it's interesting you should say that, because having your people go out um, and they are not on the site all the time, so they are getting a lens of independence, and I appreciate that. I'm not saying that you're not doing exactly what I am indicating, but it's good that you do that and you don't just ask people to review their own work.
Yeah, and it's we changed how we do our inspections. They used to be a checklist. You go down through and you check off the boxes. If a box wasn't checked, it was something bad. I I I just felt that wasn't doing anybody any good. What's a foreman or a superintendent on a project supposed to do with a checklist? Chances are he probably knew some of that stuff was already not being done. Now he just has a checklist in front of him, and we expect him to check those boxes and move on. So it became, this needs to be a conversation. This needs to be a working relationship between you and the foreman or the superintendent. Hey, I'm walking the site. Are you available? If not, I'll walk it. And then when I'm done, I'm getting back with you. And I'm not leaving here until we've had a conversation. And then, the report's done, and it's more of a narrative. It's more of a narrative of what was observed, what work was going on, who was on site, who was talked to, what was discussed. And then that's sent out to the entire project team, the entire safety team, leadership, and anybody that should see that is getting that. And, there's anywhere from 40 to 50 of those sent out a day. And, some might say that's a lot, but you break it down, I don't think it necessarily is when you look at the amount of work that we have going on and the number of
Well,
job
you've got
sites going on.
2,500 employees.
Right.
I
So,
mean, yeah, that's not that
it's
many.
not a lot. Um, but it's changed, I think, a lot of the way that those people on the project are viewing it, and it's okay. I see what they put here in this observation. And yeah, we did talk about that, and that's something we have to improve on. So it's allowed for coaching moments, learning moments, everything in between that. And I think it's just helped, bridge that gap, and it makes those safety professionals feel more comfortable.
Now, are you also responsible for inspections of like rigging and tie downs, like all your annual? So you also have to do that kind of work. Another area you could work with us on, by the way. But that is the kind of thing, I mean, we do rigging inspections at, hundreds of locations, and it's the annual rig inspection is a lot of work. And it kind of is a distraction for the safety community. And it does seem as though it does go under safety properly and appropriately. I'm not saying it shouldn't, but it's a lot of work, for folks to do that.
And it can be, and for us, it's unique with satellite locations, job sites everywhere. It's, how do you create a list of everything and where is it and how do you know when the inspection's done? And so that's where,
Well, that's
having
where a
those
platform like ours would really be helpful.
right, right.
You'd
And,
see it, you'd know it all.
I would
So,
say probably not what you want to hear, but we spent a lot of our time trying to be okay. We can do this internally.
yeah, of
But it
course you
gets to a
do.
point where you understand that it's not possible. And
Everybody should want to do it internally. And I mean that. It's
yes,
there are things you should not outsource. There are things you should not be doing. Like I always ask, okay, the average safety person makes six figures around there. Maybe a little less, maybe a little more, but they're highly compensated. And if they're going to drive for 4 hours and go do a half a day training course and do a test and comes back, you basically just burnt a day and a half, 2 days of their time. And we could have probably done it for $1,500. And it's like, okay, why wouldn't you? And they go, oh, well, we'll do it better. I said, why do you believe that? And then go down and it's like, you know what? You set the right expectations and you know what you're going to get. They're not going to do it better. It's a training course. As long as they're qualified and you're clear. And it's kind of that same thing because I don't blame people. It is a mental thing. I'm responsible for this and I'm handing over that responsibility. And I usually say, well, air traffic control is responsible for the airplanes flying, but you don't have to be flying every airplane. Like, like you're still responsible for it.
absolutely. And, I I look at it as, okay, we tackle what we can internally and do and try to develop as much internally as possible. There comes a point where, like you said, it's just not doable anymore. And I think, if you don't recognize that as a company, you're never gonna you're never gonna grow and develop. And me as a safety professional sitting there saying, I can do all of this, I can handle all of this. Yeah, that's a lie, right? So yeah, opportunities to work with companies like yours, I think is incredible if people give it a chance.
Yeah. And the thing is like one of the things that I always try to reinforce, and it has very little to do with us and just kind of the principle of using more economic or efficient, you have to separate the time and money factor from the quality and convenience factor. And quality is number one. If you don't have that, time and money doesn't matter. Like if you are not getting a really impactful, as good or better than I could do it internally, don't outsource it. You shouldn't. Like, so I always say that's the number one thing, whether you're going to if you're going to your general practitioner and they go, you need to go to an orthopedist, and you go into the orthopedist and they say, oh yeah, I'm a GP, I just like to do orthopedic work. You'd be like, no, you're supposed to be a specialist. I'm going to go to somebody else, right? It's like, we should be, in all honesty, better. If we're not, then there's a problem. But the other piece of the equation is that I think if you're on average, we're about, 40% of the cost of most people's internal cost for travel and per diems and all that stuff. And so that means that you could double up on the same budget to get more. So I always say, look, if you're going to do a training once a quarter, you could do it once a month and you'd actually be spending the same amount. Like, or you could do a training cycle for surveys. You could do a quarterly survey at every single one of your locations for the cost that you could do an annual survey for one. Like it kind of just works out that way. And so I just think that there's a mindset shift, and we're getting there. We're getting there as an industry.
I think too, having external pieces of the puzzle help to keep the puzzle interesting. Um, if you have the same folks doing the same trainings, especially if it's an annual training, people build expectations. If they didn't have a great experience the year before for whatever reason, when they come back the next year, they already have a preconceived, notion of what it's going to be like. And so, an external group that can aid in that and change that, then it just keeps them interested, and that's where I feel something like with what you guys have built and what you've come up with is just a piece to that to help change the culture.
I appreciate that. I really do. And at the end of the day, it's, expectations at the beginning and validation of meeting expectations at the end. And if you can do that, no matter what you do for work. And the biggest problem that we as an organization, and frankly, we as a human society have, is people being unclear about what success looks like. And if you don't have clarity there, you'll never be happy. And every time I've ever really had a problem with a customer, and look, we do thousands and thousands of these things a quarter. The only time I ever have a problem is that if I give somebody the report and they go, this report wasn't good. I said, okay, if I gave that to 5 of your people, how many would say it was good? 3. Like, well, then you need to give me what good looks like, because I gave you this template and said, this is what you're going to get, and you got it. Why did you say it was, why do you agree that that's okay? Like, I don't want to fail.
Well, sure. Yeah. And I do think that there's a lot of that today where people maybe hesitate to expand on what their expectations are. And, if you have a company that wants to grow and expand and, they have expectations of what that looks like profitability wise. Well, what's that look like efficiency wise? What's that look safety wise? And there's people that I think hesitate on that a lot. And that's, you look at construction individually as an industry, you have a lot of that. And, from my perspective, you see it a lot on jobs where we may say be the construction manager, and you have one individual there that's running that project. And if they aren't capable of explaining expectations, they might be able to say, production wise, I have an expectation that this, and this is going to be done by this deadline. But if they don't expand on their expectations of let's do it efficiently, so we're not redoing something twice, and let's also have an expectation of what that means safety wise. Yeah, I've always strongly felt there's three things you need on a job: productivity, efficiency, and safety. If you don't have all three, it's just not going to work.
And if safety fails, your productivity is officially shot and your efficiency is officially shot. And even if you're just looking at it from an economic perspective, if something happens, that place is a nightmare. And your budget's gone, your efficiency's gone, you're probably gone. So if you just look at it from that perspective, do it for your own sake.
Right. Yeah. And I will say, when I was going through college, I shared a slightly different mindset on safety. The professors are your safety, your safety, your safety. This is what this means. This is what this means. And the phrase that always got me was safety's number one.
Oh boy.
I never believed in that. And I argued with a number of professors about that. I said, it's safety's number one. That means you're putting everything else to the side. And from a business standpoint, you can't do that.
We are building. You know what's number one? Building a product that customers are like and appreciate it, and that we do it efficiently and safely. But if safety is number one, okay, all your employees are going to stay home and wrap themselves in bubble wrap. And guess what? Bye-bye, company.
I sat in our own meetings where leadership will, let's say we had an incident or something, and leadership will be sitting there and having a conversation. They'll say, well, everybody knows here's safety's number one. Safety's the priority.
I appreciate this conversation. It has been such a delight to have you. Congratulations, not only on being an exemplary professional in our industry, the industry of safety, which I have had so many debates with venture capitalists and PE firms that safety is not an industry. And I finally have just said, if you don't think of it as an industry, you will never be able to invest in a company like mine, because it is an industry in its own right. But you're also just such a good example for what I would hope my son is going to be as a father and as a husband and as a leader. So congratulations on where you are so far in your career. And I'm excited to see where you go.
Hey, thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us, and have a great day.
That's it for today's episode of the Canary Report. If this conversation helped you reframe how you think about risk and safety, please do me a favor. Hit subscribe, leave a review, and share it with somebody who needs to hear it. We're building a new category of safety and risk leadership, one that's faster and smarter. Leaders who aren't just empowered by tech, but whose wisdom is accelerated by it. To learn more about how Yellowbird's cutting-edge platform is empowering leaders to solve workplace safety and risk challenges faster, smarter, and at scale, visit goyellowbird.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Yellowbird pages to stay up to date. Until next time, lead with clarity, know first, and act fast.